Okay, this is a lecture to accompany Chapter 15 of the textbook on the autonomic nervous system. And the nervous system is a division of the nervous system. It's part of the peripheral nervous system that consists of nerve tissue outside of the central nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system has both sensory and motor networks. And this is part of one of those motor networks. In the autonomic nervous system, this carries impulses from the central nervous system via autonomic nerves, and these are nerves that are going to innervate cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands. And these are things that are under control of involuntary areas of the central nervous system, areas like the hypothalamus and the brainstem. So in that example that I gave you where sensory input, the sight and sound of a bear, this part of the response, the autonomic nervous system, would activate the cardiac muscle to beat harder. It would cause the adrenal glands to secrete adrenaline. It would direct blood flow to the skeletal muscles so that we could run away quickly. The autonomic nervous system is part of the division of the peripheral nervous system, and it contains two parts. The autonomic nerves, which are kind of the opposite of the somatic nerves, contain sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. These are two divisions that are going to send kind of opposite signals to muscles and glands like smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, not skeletal muscle. We're talking about smooth muscle. And this network, the autonomic nervous system, contains two neurons. So, unlike somatic nerves, which have one neuron that goes from the central nervous system to skeletal muscle, the autonomic nervous system has two neurons, a two neuron pathway that goes to smooth muscle or cardiac muscle or glands. So last chapter, we talked about the somatic motor system. This is the autonomic system. Okay, it's controlled by the hypothalamus and areas of the brainstem, and it's going to activate smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and gland, and it's going to regulate activities that are involuntary or unconscious, although they might be influenced by what goes on in the cerebrum. And in this case, we can both inhibit or stimulate the glands or muscles that are involved. The autonomic nervous system, this two neuron system, sometimes has synapses outside of the central nervous system. And most organs will get input from both the parasympathetic and sympathetic divisions of the autonomic nervous system. And these are giving kind of opposite instructions. The parasympathetic division is giving actions and instructions that kind of help us when we need to do the basic homeostatic functions like digestion and rest. The sympathetic division is sometimes called the fight or flight response, prepares us for dramatic action that may need to happen. This system, although its peripheral nervous system is controlled, of course, by the central nervous system. And so when we talk about the regulation of the autonomic nervous system, we have to recognize that there are central nervous system structures involved, and the primary one is the hypothalamus. Okay, the hypothalamus controls most autonomic activities. Many of these activities function as reflexes. Okay, they're responses, and so given a certain stimulus, they will always produce a certain response. And many of these activities are centered in reflex centers in the spinal cord and in the brainstem, and sometimes in the ganglia of autonomic nerves. Higher centers can influence these things. These could be the cerebral cortex or the limbic system, but in general, these things are controlled through the brainstem and hypothalamus. They have opposite effects, the sympathetic and parasympathetic division, but they're generally effects that we can identify. So, in summary, the autonomic nervous system is a motor division of the peripheral nervous system. It controls visceral activities. The autonomic nervous system differs particularly in anatomy and in function from the somatic motor system. This is going to control and coordinate responses from many target organs, all the digestive organs, the reproductive organs, the organs of the urinary system. These are all going to be coordinated through these responses. The autonomic nuclei are present in the central nervous system. The most important ones are in the hypothalamus and in the medulla, and these things maintain homeostasis.